Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the AppConsult live podcast. And I'm Matteo, and as usual, I'm here with my buddy Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Matteo. How are you doing?
Pretty good, thanks. Well, I'm technically on vacation, so I can't ask for more. What about you?
Technically, I'm not on vacation yet.
So, yeah, I win. Sorry, I win.
Yeah, indeed. But I'm going to start next week with my vacation, so there's that.
Okay. So, yeah, life is not bad also for you.
Yeah, well, the weather could be better. I heard the weather where you're currently at is much better than here.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's currently not snowing. No, kidding.
Well, you can start planning your winter vacation. So.
Yeah, I guess. This summer so far has been very wet and rather cold, so we barely hit 20 degrees.
Move to Italy, so...
Yeah. Well, if they would let us, I don't know. I think we would be able to get there, I assume. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe somewhere. Yeah, could be. So let's start talking about the topic of today, which is WinUI. We have already touched this topic. Actually, Mark touched this topic in the episode that we dedicated to build. But since I think it's one of the biggest things that is going to happen in the Windows space, we decided to have a full episode dedicated only to this. So we will share some information about WinUI, and then both me and Mark have some real demos. Mark's one is really real.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the job he did for build. Mine is an experiment I started to do in the last weeks, but just to give you an idea where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with some slides. They are not that much, but just to give you some context. So
We're
now,
gonna do that casually anyway, so it's not like you are getting like the full build demo talks, but it's just like we're going through the slides and have a couple of remarks.
Yeah.
Worst
case scenario, you can also watch the recording and play it at 2 pair free speed, and you're good to go. So right now, as Windows developers, we are right now in the middle of a tough situation or a complex situation because the technical world has evolved. So as developers, we are asked to build applications which are great for our customers. And today, being great, meaning supporting new hardware, providing modern user experience, having a good deployment story, focusing on reliability, security, and privacy. And in the meantime, maybe try also not to drain the battery of the devices of our customers in 30 minutes. However, at the same time, you need to account about delivering these features with your existing code. In the past, Microsoft launched the Universal Windows Platform, which is great, but it also asked a lot to our developers because as Microsoft, we asked basically to rewrite from scratch to leverage all the greatest features of the Universal Windows Platform.
Yeah. I think one of the points with UWP is also you have to think of at which time it has been created and introduced, right? So we were still in the mobile game, so it had to take account for those different devices as well. We already dropped, I think it was 7 and no, it was introduced with 8. So already we dropped like an entire operating system. And so the developers were basically, and so we have Silverlighted a couple of things as well. So the developers were basically, let's put it very friendly, fed up with this. And that's why the adoption of UWP did not happen, because like it's basically like a great platform and the ideas behind it are solid, but we just had like some kind of bad start in order to get the traction we need in order to have more apps and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. The asking to developers to restart from scratch, it's a hard ask, especially if you think about the enterprise world, where you might have applications built since 10 years with a huge code base. So maybe enterprises are interested. We see every day enterprises interested in adopting features from the Universal Windows platform, like touch support, high screen DPI support, the new authentication APIs, but they are not ready to restart from scratch. So the focus of Microsoft in the latest years has been to expand the compatibility with all your existing code. So making sure that you can take advantage of everything that we have today in Windows 10 with your existing code. And this is actually the goal of a project that has been launched at Build, which is Project Reunion. This is not a framework, it's not a UI, it's not a library, it's a project. And the goal of this project is exactly to achieve this goal.
Yeah.
So right now, what's happening today is that you have different kind of applications, and they all talk with different kind of APIs, which are embedded inside the operating system. We are improving the story because since a while you can use technologies like XAML Islands or the UWP NuGet packages so that you can mix and match APIs. But these APIs are still built inside the operating system.
Yeah, exactly.
And this creates challenges because you still need to differentiate between desktop, between UWP. When you have a new feature in, Windows 10 20.04, you need to have your customers on the same version to use these features. There's a bit of complexity. So the goal of Project Reunion is basically to lift all these APIs from the operating system to packages, to libraries, to NuGet packages, so that can be updated independently from the operating system, and you can stop thinking about desktop apps, UWP apps, but just about Windows apps which target these APIs.
Yeah.
As I said, Project Reunion is not really a framework, it's not really a library, it's a project. And guess what? Which is the first big piece of the Project Reunion story? Drum roll. WinUI, MFC. No, just kidding. WinUI. WinUI is the first big piece of Project Reunion. And why is this big piece? Let's go back in time. So right now, we have a lot of UI frameworks for building Windows application. MFC and native C++ is probably Mark's favorite one.
Yes!
Just kidding. Mark is going to do a demo about WinUI and C++.
Oh, yeah. Don't ask me hard questions about C++.
Yeah, indeed. And then it reached the top of maturity. It was declared the state of the art. Then we moved to Windows Forms, which was the first part of .NET Framework, and also that one at some point was feature complete and reached the state of the art. Then we had WPF, which was still part of the .NET family, but with a more powerful UI framework with animations, binding, a lot of nice stuff. And also WPF reached basically the state of the art, so we can consider it feature complete from a UI point of view. And then we had the XAML introduced with the Universal Windows platform, which is the one that introduced all the modern ways of doing UI we see today. So Fluent Design, Touch, inking, high DPI support, and so on.
And you know what?
Yeah.
What all of them have in common?
No.
Their UI layer is like basically ironed into the entire operating system. So
correct. Yeah, correct. So
that never changed in all those years.
Yeah. So right now we have 4 UI frameworks, all considered the state of the art. So if I'm a Windows developer and I have to say, okay, I want to start a new Windows project, which one should I pick? Well,
MFC, obviously.
Yeah, of course, especially yourself. Yeah, of course. Well, if you consider about the normal evolution of projects, of products, the obvious answer should be UWP XAML, because it's the most recent one. So it should be the best one for a new project or to modernize an existing project. However, there's a catch, that we have the separation between the desktop ecosystem and the UWP ecosystem. So UWP XAML is the state of the art right now, but it works only for UWP apps. We have XAML Islands, which is a technology that allows you to have pieces of UWP UIs in Win32 apps, but still we are back to square one. Do you want to build a great application with the best UI, touch-friendly, high DPI friendly? Which is the answer? Start from scratch with a new application.
And the point also is, like, only UWP only recently, the XAML itself recently catched up to all the functionality WPF offered, because like it was for years, it was like, yeah, basically you could use UWP, but then you wouldn't get this particular control or that one, or you would need to pay extra money to get those from various third parties. Do we have a sponsor, Matteo?
No, we don't have a sponsor. No,
no, but from various third-party control libraries. And so basically this maturity took a while in order to get there. Yeah.
Indeed. So which is the goal of WinUI? Well, exactly bridging the gap between the desktop and the UWP ecosystem. So currently we already have a WinUI library on the market. It's on the branch 2.x.
2.2, yeah.
Yeah, and right now it's basically a library which contains the most common controls and styles. And it's still targeting pure UWP apps.
Yes.
The goal of WinUI is to basically enable backward compatibility. So basically you can use all the UWP UI controls regardless of the Windows 10 version where they have been added, because they have been lifted from the operating system and moved to a NuGet package. But still, it applies only to UWP applications. WinUI3 is going to add a small but very important piece to this evolution, which is the visual layer. So the whole XAML framework will be detached from the operating system and added to a NuGet package. Sounds familiar? Well, it's the goal of Project Reunion. So detaching things from the operating system and adding them to a NuGet package. So with this change, what will happen is that WinUI3 will become a UI framework that can be used in the same way from a Win32 app and a UWP app. So we will have a state-of-the-art framework for every Windows developer. Doesn't matter if you have a desktop application or you have desktop skills or a UWP application and UWP skills.
There's one catch, though. And I've been asked this from one of my other customers regarding the WinUI effort we are doing. As far as it... wait a minute. Hell breaks loose. Let me just quickly close the window.
Yeah, I forgot that you are in winter time right now.
Yeah. There won't be, as of right now, there won't be any support for Windows 7. So basically... we will stick with WPF XAML or WinForms in its like purest form. Let's put it that way on Windows 7. There are Uno. I think Uno framework was the guys who were basically doing this with HTML controls, if I remember correctly. So basically, they're kind of providing an alternative, which are.
Yeah, if you still need to target Windows 7 and you want to use WinUI, Uno is definitely a platform to keep under consideration, because with Uno you can use the WinUI basically to build cross-platform applications, and one of the targets that they can export to is WebAssembly. And WebAssembly runs on every modern browser, regardless of the operating system. So you can export a WinUI application to a WebAssembly app that runs on the new Edge, on Chrome, on Firefox, running on Windows 7, for example.
So will it run on my Win98 machine?
Well, let's not push the boundaries too much. In the long term, the UWP XAML will also go away, because right now the team is, let's say, keep updated all the controls, regardless where they are coming from. But in the long term, all the investments are around WinUI. So the operating system controls will be basically removed and moved to WinUI. So WinUI will become the central point where everything will happen in terms of UI for Windows 10.
Mm-hmm.
And which is the roadmap of WinUI? Mark, do you want to tell us a bit about this?
Yeah, so basically we are now playing still in the alpha phase, in the public alpha preview. I think it's the regular name right now, or preview 1. This is where we are right now.
It was released at build, yeah.
Yeah, we will receive, yeah, exactly. So we will receive a preview 2. Yeah, obviously we have another one, and the most important part will be in November, because then we consider with the preview 4, it's considered like API stable, so to say. So you can basically build on features. So because until then API might change, or I don't know, we're gonna try to break things basically. And yeah, once we hit November, like hopefully once we hit November, there will be some kind of more stable or better like version where the API is already set in stone in a way, and we can work with that from there.
Yeah. Okay, now we talked too much.
Oh, my bad. So obviously it will be available next year, by the end of Q1 around, something like that. That will be like the preview, the final or the preview version. Yeah.
Okay, so we talked too much. We showed too many slides. So now it's demo time. So Mark, do you want to share with us a bit?
It's C+ time!
Yeah, everyone was waiting for that. So.
Oh yeah. So basically the entire trick was renaming all my C# files to CPP, and everybody thinks I'm a CPP god right now.
Ah, okay. I didn't know it was that easy. So
yeah.
we'll keep in mind for my future projects.
All right, great. So I don't know if you've seen the build demo. Let's just quickly run over it and see. So I pre-built it. Hopefully it should be, yeah. So the amazing power of my fast computer. So there is this, can we say names and brands? Probably, right?
Well, yes, it was an official showcase, so
yeah,
I guess.
Okay. So Magix owns the Vegas Pro brand now, which was originally owned by Sony and developed. This is basically like a video editor. And as I'm using this one myself, so I think it's like the next, in my opinion, the next best to Premiere, which is more important. So I stuck with this one anyway. So it was a great opportunity to work on, let's say, the next big UI overhaul, or the next big UI for this program. And in order to showcase what we can do with WinUI3, we just picked basically some kind of really interesting feature or control, which is not like quite common, but which also has some couple of challenges and so on. So we picked this particular color picker, and it's not like the regular color picker, because this one is quite iconic for Vegas Pro. So we started with that one, and we had a couple of iterations on that. And so what it can do is basically, it's also with model binding. So you can basically select like the amount of like the Y value, and then you can just basically choose your color value and this one obviously translates to a lift, to gamma, to a gain, and to an offset of your current movie or frame you got. And then you can basically just select different modifications of your image. And as you can see, obviously, you can do this by mouse, but you can also do this by numbers. So it's basically interlinked like some usual view model thingies. So this one works as expected with all the summers. So this was our idea to showcase. Obviously, this is not like some kind of regular color picker. And let's have a look how this one is built. So the project itself is a new project type for the WinUI3. Usually, or before, you only had the option to use this in a UWP context. Now you don't have to take the entire UWP context with you. You just can create a new project type, which is WinUI Win32. And this one creates this desktop project with the entire WinUI things you want to add, and a package project, which basically repackages everything to MSIX package, which you can then either deploy regularly or through the store or whatever. Okay, so
just to give an update on this, the packaging project is part of the default template due to some current limitation on WinUI, but this setup will go away in the future, meaning that MSIX remains the best way today to deploy a desktop application, but the team knows that there are some scenarios where MSIX might not be the right solution. So they are working to make sure that WinUI3 will work fine regardless if the application is packaged or unpackaged.
Okay, yeah. And so apart from that, you have those like regular references, which is called this doesn't look so good as on the other development platform, but you're having your WinUI, Microsoft UI. There you have the new packages. So you basically add them as expected through NuGet. We can have a look into the NuGet packages list. There's the WinUI package, which is basically the latest one. And this project itself brings the CPP WinRT. This one is also new, the WinRT. Oh my gosh.
Winter is coming.
Cats and dogs, like literally. Oh my gosh. Interesting.
Well, we will wrap up this podcast and then we will say goodbye for good. So
yeah, I assume I will need to bring a boat or something.
Holy. Next podcast will be from the sea, so from a boat.
I mean, I need to show you. This is like really.
Oh wow!
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Holy moly!
It's been nice to meet you, Mark. So
this is. Oh my gosh! So I think this is like our last podcast today. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Oh my.
Germany is facing the end of the world. So, can you do me a favor? Can you keep it there instead and not send it like in Italy, for example? I mean,
yeah. I mean, luckily we have the Alps in between, so.
Okay, so let's hope they will stop there.
Yeah, I mean, the flood will probably find a way around, but at some point it doesn't matter anyway.
Okay.
So where was I? Yeah. So basically, we switched to the CPP WinRT libraries. This allows you to even go with the abstraction further, but it's also those two libraries are brought by the project type anyway. So basically, this is what it needs to be done, and then you can just start by writing XAML, and we did this with the color control picker, which is basically our XAML. And then we just start by setting up styles, grids, and obviously need to put everything into places. And then we work with path, as you can see, because like we needed those paths in order to achieve the roundings and the mark in between. But this is like pure XAML. This is all supported through WinUI already. We can use themes already. So there's that. And on the back, no, give me a second. We also can work with our implementation, which is basically like this is basically our type of view model, which allows us to set values. As you've seen, like once we've moved the picker around, the values in the text box changed and the other way around. So basically we can use this view model style approach architecture here as well. This is also implemented. What else? We have used value converters already. So in order to convert values between, so the hue value needs to be translated into some other values and stuff like that. This is also working. So if you want to maybe even allow some translation between metric units and freedom units or something like that, you can still use value converters. This is also available already. And everything itself is basically just tied together by like a single main window, which is then just called by the app XAML, and then it's basically like any XAML application that works. So a lot of like similar to WPF or UWP concepts, which makes it very easy, in my opinion, to move over to WinUI. But with the new flexibility of not being bound to either that or that, but you can basically like choose. And you can also have, we had this in a different approach or in a different sample we've built for build, where we basically let the entire WinUI UI being consumed by various different clients. So basically like the way it was supposed to be in the slides. So basically this is our visualization, and this one is only consumed by, let's say, business logic and makes things visually interesting.
Cool. That's very powerful, and this is something actually that the C++ developers were asking since a long time, because C# developers have been more lucky, because at least they had Windows Forms and WPF. But when it comes to pure desktop application, the latest UI framework from Microsoft is still MFC. So the way you did the UI between MFC and today has changed quite a lot. So
yeah, and a customer of mine, I mean, the project we worked came to a halt because of some issues with the framework right now. But this also allows like interesting things which have like MFC or Win32 apps that, for example, display some DirectX or 3D content to be enriched, or to have some kind of additional or modern UI. So we basically were able to take the entire rendering and put this into the WinUI containers, so it ran there. So that was pretty nice. It's your customer now anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so now instead let's see a little bit of the story instead for C# developers. And when it comes to WinUI for C# developers, the story is really tied together with the .NET 5 story.
Yeah.
Because basically when you install the WinUI Preview, you get a new project template, which is called WinUI Desktop, C#. It's loading, so you can find this WinUI in desktop blank app. And basically, this one will create under the hood a .NET 5 application. So if you take a look at the project configuration here, you can see that this is a .NET Core 5 application. However, it's not WPF, it's not Windows Forms, it's a WinUI application. So it's using .NET 5 under the hood, but it's also connected to the WinUI layer. So also in this case, if we take a look, well, we can see it already here in the project configuration. You can see that we have a reference to the package which contains WinUI. And from here, we have a normal application. It looks like a WPF application because you have the window concept, because it's a desktop application. But the XAML you can see here is actually WinUI XAML. So you have the split view control, for example. You can see controls like teaching tip, progress string. So all controls that are part of the universal Windows platform. However, the advantage here is that even if you have an application that needs to do special stuff which wasn't supported by the universal Windows platform, here you are working with a regular .NET desktop application. So this means, for example, that I can have some code that reads and writes from the registry using the .NET APIs. I can have some code that writes a text file on the desktop of the user. So as you can see here, I'm retrieving the special folder desktop. These are all features that in a full UWP application, you are not able to achieve because it runs in a sandbox. So stuff like saving files anywhere or writing to the registry is not possible. This is not a way to say don't write UWP apps. There are a lot of scenarios where the security boundaries are actually a good thing. But we know that, especially in some enterprises scenarios, they can create limitations. So it's great to see that you can create a full WinUI application, but with all the power of the Win32 ecosystem. This is how the application looks like. As you can see, it looks like a UWP application. The UI is the UWP one. I can change the theme. I can fill the form, and for example, the date picker is the UWP one. When I hit send, you can see the teaching tip and the progress string being displayed here. So everything is fluent, like a UWP application. But under the hood, for example, if I go to my desktop, you can see that I have created this file with the information that I have stored in the application. So even if it seems like a silly example, but from a full UWP application, you are not able to write a file on the desktop because it's not you can write only in the sandboxes that is offered to the developer. So in this case, the outcome is similar to the one that Mark showed to you. So you can have the mix of both worlds. The only difference is that since here we are in a managed environment, the WinUI story, as I said, it's really connected to the .NET Core story, to the .NET Core 5 story. So WinUI will move together with .NET 5. In fact, for example, right now, if you use WinUI Preview 1, you might have some issues because .NET 5 has evolved with other previews, and there are some breaking changes, so you will need to wait for the Preview 2 if you want to use the latest .NET 5 builds. But of course, this is expected because it's a work in progress. When you will have the go live to use WinUI, all these issues will be solved.
Hopefully,
yeah, of course. Okay, so
Matteo, what do you think? Will it be like the next? I mean, the interesting part is so now that we've shown that it's basically like the previous development experience all over again, so nothing really changed. Do you think it will gain traction? Because I think the idea is great, but I also thought the idea of UWP is great. and still UWP still lacks, in my opinion, the traction it needed. And you think WinUI will gain more traction or will have more impact?
So, in my opinion, well, I'm a positive person, so the answer is yes. But the reason is that we are seeing a lot of interest around WinUI, and the main reason is what we shared in the beginning of this episode. So, many people didn't embrace UWP, not because they didn't like the framework, or they didn't like the features, or they didn't like the UI, but because they couldn't afford to start from scratch, or for many enterprises scenarios to fully embrace the sandbox. I mean, in our everyday job, we see a lot of enterprise applications that are not a good fit for the sandbox of the Universal Windows platform.
Yeah.
So I think WinUI can really be the best of both worlds. So providing best-in-class UI and this is what I always say to my customers, is that this is not just about the fluent design per se. So it's not only about making application which looks better, also because how can I say, the finding a UI attractive there's always a matter of personal preference, personal choice. But with WinUI, you can also get benefits which instead are not just about, the UI is fancy, like support to IDPIs. We know that Windows Forms or MSC struggle when they need to run on a Surface laptop or a Surface Book with a 3K, 4K screen. Or things like accessibility, things like better support for touch. So there are a lot of scenarios where there's value in adopting WinUI. Hopefully, with WinUI3, it will be easier to adopt it and not having to start from scratch or to remove features from your app because they're not a good fit for the sandbox and so on.
Yeah, makes sense. But on the other hand, we still have XAML Islands, which is basically like a step in between.
Yeah.
So I think so. So what I really hope, just not as an employee, but basically as a developer, is that we have like some kind of clear road of modernization. So the developers that aren't so deeply involved into those topics, but their daily task is basically to maintain and further develop their LOBs. That they can see this clear path and know which way to choose or what makes the most sense for their applications in order to evolve them, and not being like struck by myriad of options and like, oh no, and then obviously what happens is let's just move on with what we have until we can make the decision, because like this is, in my opinion, the worst outcome.
Yeah, I totally agree. In theory, the story should be quite straightforward, because we are still talking about, in the future, it will be only WinUI, basically.
Yeah.
What can change is the way you consume WinUI. So XAML Islands will be the way you mix two different UIs in case you are not ready to revamp completely the UI. Full WinUI will be the path forward for building new UI experiences. But I totally agree with you. The message here must be clear.
Yeah, and what I see, and I don't know if we need to take this off the record at some point. I mean, now that we've basically said it, like we already set partially a competition to that with the whole MAUI approach. Because there we say like, oh, look at this. We also have another way of like describing interfaces on various devices, although it's tied to .NET, obviously. But the regular developer, the regular .NET developer will probably not see like, okay, it's WinUI, but oh, maybe it's the other way.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see these stories conflicting, because I think WinUI will be what it's today, the UWP UI layer. So will be the layer to build Windows applications. And if you think about cross-platform solutions like MAUI, Xamarin Forms, React Native, WinUI will be the piece that will allow the application to run on Windows. So the cross-platform UI will be probably translated in WinUI when the application runs on Windows. This is, for example, what we are seeing today with React Native. React Native outputs native UI controls. Right now, since WinUI is still in early stages, it generates native UI controls, but the React Native team is already working to generate WinUI controls. So under the hood, you use WinUI even if the developer doesn't know that, because it's building a React Native application.
Yeah, I agree with you, but this is I was getting to. I was referring basically to we have to get the communication straight, because I have been approached like. But what is it now? Is it WinUI? Is it MAUI? I'm confused, and it's like, you can't. I mean, yes, this is exactly so. We need to
be careful in communicating that. I mean, the MAUI effort is about the cross-platform story. WinUI is about the Windows story, and the two things don't overlap. But I agree. Yeah.
Totally. But in the mind of the people, it's basically because MAUI also includes the whole XAML definition, and then they hear XAML and they think of like describing UI, which they basically do, but as in a stupid way to explain, it's basically like you're writing XAML to generate XAML, which I mean obviously is stupid. It won't happen that way, but.
Well, actually, it's what Xamarin Forms is already doing today, because you write a XAML and you generate, when you generate a Windows application, you generate a UWP app, which is XAML as well. So it's very different from what happens today.
Yeah, true. But Xamarin Forms is, I think Xamarin Forms is, I mean, I love its adoption, but it's not so broadly adopted by people that now get in contact with MAUI. So because like I do a lot of Xamarin in my job.
Xamarin is always promoted mainly as a mobile framework. So and this is one of the things that will change with MAUI. MAUI instead is embracing a broader ecosystem, similar to what we are doing with React Native, where with React Native, the React Native at Microsoft team is working to make sure that React Native is a first-class citizen also on Windows and macOS. So not just mobile platforms, but also desktop platforms. I think MAUI has a similar goal, but for CSharp developers.
Yeah, although, okay. I gotta give you like this comment off the record, definitely.
Okay. I stay. Let's talk like later after the podcast.
All right.
I need my job. I like my job. So
yeah, me too. Okay. Do we have anything else to add to the WinUI story? I mean, it's probably challenging, but it also brings lots of great opportunities for unifying and modernizing your apps.
My last comment is that if you are interested in the WinUI story, keep an eye on the WinUI repo on GitHub, because the team is moving on this project in an open source fashion. So they use issues to track the roadmap, to share the roadmap, to track what's happening. They also have monthly community calls, and the invitation and the links are on GitHub. So go there and be engaged with the team if you care about this technology. They are also listening a lot, getting feedback from customers, from developers. So if you have some suggestions, go there. The team is listening.
Yeah, and don't ask me C++ questions.
Okay, next episode will be dedicated to C++, and Mark will be the special guest.
Oh, yeah.
A 3-hour special episode about C++. Only with Mark. No one else.
Yeah, let's call it Let's Learn C++ Together.
Sounds great. Okay, let's call it today. And thanks for everyone who listened us so far. And I hope we will see you again in the next episode.
Which might take a while. Let me just add this really quick, because we are both on vacation now. And during our vacation, we might consider changing a couple of things.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Exactly. Yeah, teaser, season 9 season 1 is over.
We get 1 million views on YouTube because people wants to know what's happening.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna get a series on Netflix.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, wait for us on Netflix. Yeah.
Have a great one. Bye.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Mark, for this chat. It's always a pleasure.
Same.
And enjoy your summer. Well, better than Mark, hopefully. I hope you are having a summer, a real summer, not the fake one from Mark.
Actually, it stopped raining.
Okay.
I see the sun is shining already.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I see like Noah and his ark floating by.
Animals everywhere. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.